When I was 4 years old, my Wednesdays were always the same. I'd go to playgroup with my mum. She ran it, so we'd spend hours at this old church. I still remember the smell of the place. Damp wood, cold stone, and a strong musty scent that comes with old buildings. The church was huge to me back then, but the playgroup only took place in this small room off to the side of the main hall. The hall itself always felt different, especially those big curtains at the back. Behind them was a large, empty space, cold, dark, and unsettling. Looking back, I think this may have been where the church's altar and pulpit were originally placed. But I'm guessing they reduced the space needed in the church as time moved on. But being 4 at the time, I didn't care much. I was more interested in the toys and the games. While Mum packed away the playgroup stuff, I'd run around the hall, playing on my own. After a few weeks of going to the playgroup, something strange happened. One day while I was playing, I heard something, a voice. It was soft, almost like a whisper, coming from behind the curtains. I couldn't really make out what it was saying. It sounded like a child. Being curious, I peered behind the curtain. It was dark, like always, but in the shadows I thought I could see someone. A small, pale child smiling at me. I remember saying hello, but she didn't reply. She just stood there, smiling. I didn't think much of it. I went back to playing, not telling my mum. I was only 4. But it didn't stop there. The next week, the voice was clearer. It was the same small child, but this time I could hear her words. She was asking me to come and play with her. Behind the curtains. I remember freezing just listening. My mum was nearby, putting things away, but she didn't hear it. Only I did. The girl was saying, "Come play with me," behind the curtains over and over. It was strange. Her voice was soft, but there was something off about it. I glanced behind the curtain. This time I saw her more clearly. A small girl, thin and pale, with long dark hair. She had these hollow eyes, dark pits where her eyes should have been, and her clothes. A dark, frilly dress, almost like something from another time. She looked wrong, and she kept beckoning to me, asking me to play behind the curtain. But I didn't. I just stared at her for a moment, feeling this weird mix of fear and curiosity. My mum doesn't remember hearing anything, but she does remember me saying something that day. I apparently stood at the edge of a curtain and very sternly said, "No, will not come behind the curtain." I guess even as a kid, I knew something wasn't right. The third time I saw the girl, everything changed. It was just like before I was playing. Mum was packing up. And I heard the voice again. "Come play with me behind the curtain," but this time, there was a sense of urgency to her voice, like she was even more desperate for me to do what she wanted. I again peeked behind the curtain. I saw the girl in her usual spot, smiling that slightly off smile again. Then I saw somebody else, a tall woman, thin and gaunt, standing in the back of the room, almost but not quite out of view. She had long dark hair, just like the child. And she was wearing this long, old-fashioned dress. Her pale hands were clasped in front of her, and her eyes. Those same dark, hollow pits. It felt like they were boring holes into me. I could not draw my gaze away from her. One thing was for certain. This woman did not want me there. Now, as I recall this event, I remember thinking she looked kind of like Morticia from the Addams Family, but in reflection she was scarier, much scarier. Her face was so stern, so unkind. It felt like we were stuck staring at one another for an eternity. And then without warning, she rushed forward. Not at me though, at the small girl. She didn't make a sound. It was like she was floating. There was an ethereal quality to her movement, and her face, it twisted into this expression of pure rage. I was frozen, completely terrified. I couldn't move, couldn't make a sound. In what felt like an instant, the woman grabbed the child and pulled her back into the dark room. The little girl's face didn't change, her smile that seemed slightly off stayed on her face the whole time. The last time I heard her say, "Come play with me behind the curtains," her tone changed to a strange sense of joy or even amusement. After that, the room was just empty. No girl, no woman, just cold and dark. My mum remembers me running to her, looking pale and scared. She told me I said something strange. "I don't like the girl's mummy. She's scary." Mum always had a bad feeling about the space behind the curtains. She would keep her distance, but she could never keep me away from it while packing up. Not long after that, we stopped going to that church. We moved away, and Mum didn't run the playgroup anymore. I never went near those curtains again, and I never heard that voice again either. But even now, all these years later, I still think about that little girl and the woman, whoever or whatever they were. They've stuck with me. It's funny how some things from childhood never really leave you, isn't it? Old buildings seem to hold onto something, don't they? Maybe it's the history seeping through the walls, or maybe it's the stories left behind by those who passed through long ago. Whatever it is, places like that old church the narrator talked about have a way of making the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. There's just something different about them. Cold, silent, yet alive in their own way. But what do you think Maddie saw behind that curtain? Was it the ghost of a long-lost child and her mother? Or maybe something darker, something from the past that hasn't let go of that old space? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below what you think. And if you've ever had your own spooky encounters in old buildings, share your story with me, whether it's a creaky old house, an abandoned school, or even a forgotten church. Your experience might just be as chilling as this one. And if you enjoyed this story and want to hear more like it, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more videos like this one. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you for the next scary, strange, or unsettling tale.